Today, I'm going to talk about Omega and Swatch Group's new Spirate System and the watch that houses it, the Omega Speedmaster Super Racing. As some of you might know, Patek Philippe, Rolex, and the Swatch Group pooled their resources together in the early 2000s for the development of a new silicon hairspring technology. Now, of course, the first silicon hairspring was introduced by Ulysse Nardin with Zigatech earlier, but that's a story for another day. They had actually come to an agreement and reached a settlement, and ultimately, the patents that they have filed at the time were due to expire, and the technology itself, therefore, was minimally due a renewal, if not an altogether complete overhaul. Which brings us to today's important discussion on the Spirate system. Now, the development of silicon hairspring technology made a lot of promises. Of course, silicon as a material actually presents important properties for manufacturing hairsprings. They're light, hard wearing, durable, thermally stable. They have excellent elastic properties, and perhaps most importantly, such hairsprings are anti-magnetic. Of course, the obvious shortcoming for a lot of horological purists was the fact that such hairsprings could not be adjusted by their length and therefore regulated by an average watchmaker. So the fine tuning of silicon hairsprings was heretofore impossible. Well, the Swatch Group has just announced that they have not rested on their laurels, and they were not simply giving this technology a slight refresh to justify the filing of a new patent, but in fact, they have tried renewing it to the extent that it would bring genuine technical innovation to the table, which I find very, very important. Not only do we have now the development of this new caliber with an anti-magnetic balance wheel. If you look at that bridge, you will see that there is a small device here's a better shot of it that looks like a screw, right? And that is a fine tuner which can be adjusted to the 10th of a second, which basically fine tunes the stiffness of the silicon balance spring. So the Spirate system not only enables for the regulation of a silicon balance spring, but in fact provides an improvement on the already significant achievements of Omega's METAS certification, now with 0 to +2 seconds per day precision. And just as we had seen after the development of the silicon hairspring technology by the CSEM, uh, when Swatch Group, Rolex, and Patek Philippe joined their sources, we have seen the silicon hairsprings propping up all over the Swatch Group's catalog, especially, but also in Patek Philippe watches. So even though this particular system was in yesterday's announcement encased in a very particular watch, we will be seeing the new Spirate system soon enough across the Swatch Group catalog and certainly across the Omega lineup as things start trickling from one model to another, which brings me back to the new Omega Speedmaster Super Racing. And the aesthetics of the watch harken back to the most important and the first groundbreaking property of silicon hairspring technology, which is its anti-magnetism. Omegas and in their claim the world's first anti-magnetic watch, after all, was the Omega Seamaster Aquaterra 15,000 Gauss. And as you can see, this black and yellow color scheme, as well as that bumblebee decoration of the seconds hand, is carried over to the new Omega Speedmaster Super Racing in terms of the yellow accents that adorn the dial as well as the tachometer, not to mention the running seconds hand at 9 o'clock, which has the similarly striped bumblebee hand. Even the honeycomb dial harkens back to that 160,000 Gauss prototype that Omega was developing at the same time for their ultra anti-magnetic piece. And in a sense, that grid-like design also seems to tell us that just as important as the aesthetics of this watch is that caliber, is that movement, is that silicon hairspring technology, the Spirate system that rests within it. And it makes absolute sense, of course, for Omega to introduce this new system in a Speedmaster, just as Omega is the flagship brand of the Swatch Group, so is the Speedmaster the flagship model, the iconic design of Omega as a brand. And of course, since this new technology, with its enabling of a new type of regulation, makes it possible for an even more chronometrically precise movement, it also makes absolute sense that it would be introduced in a Speedmaster Racing, which, of course, echoes with times of yore when such chronographs were instruments for precise measurement of time on the track. The watch has a case diameter of 44.25 millimeters. Uh, it wears quite well, actually, for that size, as do a number of other Speedmaster Racing chronographs. It's right under 15 millimeters in thickness, which helps with that ease and wearability. And it retails right around $11,000 in the US. Of course, it comes on a matching stainless steel new Omega Speedmaster strap with a bracelet, I should say, with an adjustable clasp, as well as a NATO style strap, which resonates with the color theme of the watch, with these gradient yellow stripes on a black background. For me, the final word is that this is, in fact, an announcement of a new age in serially produced, mass-produced timepieces. The new Spirate System allows for the regulation of silicon balance springs where this had not been possible before. Not by changing the length of an hairspring, which would be the case, of course, with an hairspring made of metal, but by the adjustment of the stiffness of the silicon balance, which is done by way of this fine-tuning instrument that's lodged on the bridge of the balance wheel. The important thing is, of course, that as a shortcoming, of course, such silicon hairsprings are not easily reproducible by any average watchmaker. And that fine-tuning instrument, that minuscule device, is seemingly operated by a proprietary screwdriver, which of course would probably necessitate that you turn in your watch to an in-house service at a pretty penny. Thankfully, such adjustments can be accomplished in any Omega boutique. That has been the final word from Omega, from Swatch Group, so at least you wouldn't be losing too much time. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share far and wide to help me reach my goal of 5,000 subscribers. And stay tuned for further content on our shared passion for wristwatches.